Hey, what is up YouTube? Welcome to the Cusp Adventurist. Alright, so on September 15th, 2018, I posted my first ever clone video. This video is by far the biggest video I made ever at the time. It got like 10k views in a week, which is pretty much like legendary status for me at the time. I mean, it still kind of is, but at the time I was getting like 30 views on my videos. But essentially, that video introduced me into the world of clones. Then pretty much I just ran with the clone things because it interests me and it interests you guys because of the views, and now they make up like 70 to 80% of all the views on my YouTube channel. But my point is, I've been able to compare the clones to the originals for a long time. I would like to show the progression and the improvements these clones have made over time. Also, I'm planning on creating a new series where I compare clones to other things and not just AirPods, so it could be like watches, phones, and so much more. And if you have any recommendations for clone things you want me to check out, leave them in the comments. I'll be sure to check it out. Alright, so the first clone that ever really started showing up is the I7 Tws. At least that was the first clone I ever really saw, but I wasn't ever able to make a video on these. But essentially they were massive and they worked very poorly. The next one that came around was the i9 Tws, which was that first clone video that I ever made. They were still bigger than the originals and they were nowhere near as functional. They were just really basic earbuds that looked like AirPods. The next one was the i10 Tws. This video was my biggest video at the time. It hit nearly 500,000 views in a very short amount of time. The clones were actually pretty good. The earbuds were the exact same shape, but the case was cheaper and had weird LEDs on them. Then came the i11 Tws, which were worse than the i10s, not sure why. They just seemed to take a step backward and were more like the i9 Tws. Then came the i12 Tws, and to this day this is my most viewed video. It almost has 2 million views, which is a ton. The i12 Tws were pretty good. They were pretty similar to the previous version and they didn't change very much. But one thing they did get right was the case, and that was a big factor, I think. The earbuds for some reason were kind of like the i11s and less like the i10s. I wish they would have been like the i10s. Then they would have pretty much been an identical clone. Then the next one that came were the Air Tws. They were pretty good looking, but they still lacked a lot of features. The next came the Pods. And they were the first ever clones to have the H1 chip, so you open the case and the little thing pops up on your phone. That was kind of revolutionary for the clones, is being able to have that feature. Then came the Air 2 with the H1 chip. They had the H1 chip that was in the AirPods Gen 2, so like right as you open the case, the thing pops up. It's super quick. Then came the I30 Tws, then the I100 Tws, and they were pretty much the same thing. Then came the i200 Tws, which is pretty much the same thing as the i100 Tws, just in the Gen 2 version. Then came the i500 Tws. And then this is where things get a little bit more complicated. Some of the manufacturers decided that the i500 Tws name was a big enough number and they would run it as their flagship one. Even though they get newer versions, they would just call it the i500 Tws. But some other companies decide to go with the trend and continue to up the numbers. So that's why you get i1000 Tws, i2000 Tws, i30,000 Tws, i90,000 Tws. But essentially those ones are the same as the i500 Tws that other companies sell. And for the most part, the i500 Tws are the best of the best when it comes to the clones. If you like, check them out. I'll leave them linked in the description. But they were able to copy every single feature on the original AirPods at a fraction of the price. It was really impressive. Then came the AirPods Pro clones. And because the demand was so high, there were identical clones very quickly made. The first ones weren't exactly the best quality, but they have changed drastically over time. And now they copy pretty much most of the AirPods Pro features. The ones that claim to have the ambient and noise cancelling mode, they do have the mode, but it's a far cry from what the originals actually are. It just doesn't sync up very well and it's just not quite the same. But I imagine because of the trend of the previous version that these will get there eventually and then they'll be the exact same, just like the originals. Alright, so if you have any questions on the evolution of AirPod Pro clones, leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to check them out. And yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, and peace.